Experience comic culture in sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Does it seem like Marvel Phase 4 has been going on for a very long time? Did you know that there's more hours in Marvel Phase 4 than the other three phases combined? And it seems like maybe we're halfway through, and we're not quite sure where we're going. I think we should need to talk about that. We need to take a moment, look and see what we've gotten so far and try to make sense of it. Yeah, let's do that today on the Dan Wickline Show. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Today, we're going to look at Phase 4 of the Marvel Universe of my MCU and just kind of break down what we've got already and what we've got left and try to figure out what the hell is going on. But before we do that, we've got our first Comic-Con trailer. Not Marvel, not DC, but an important thing, a popular thing. Yes, they're trying again a Dungeons & Dragons movie. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves with Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Renee Page, something from that Bodice Ripper show on Netflix. Yeah, it's hey, cool. Renee Page, or so they've got this, and I got to tell you, I only had a quick second to watch it before I got on the air, so I told JD, grab it, we'll watch it with everybody. On the tiny little phone screen I got, it looked interesting, but let's look at it on a bigger screen, shall we? I don't know why they need to do a teaser before the trailer nowadays.
Here's the thing. We're a team of thieves. And when you do this, you're bound to make enemies. Sometimes those enemies come looking for revenge.
Okay, that's pretty much D&D. Good musical choice, which I'm going to talk over to make sure we don't get a thing. But
help the wrong person.
Okay, so I love the effects in this so far.
We didn't mean to unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known. But we're gonna fix it.
So how do we pull?
Okay, this definitely looks cool.
Figure it out over a drink.
Probably best. You need to give us a fighting chance. We're gonna need strength. You got this, right?
I know.
Oh yeah, a barbarian. You got to have a barbarian.
Magic.
Can't tell if he's a thief or a. No, he can't be a thief. Okay. An owlbear. We got an owlbear.
What is that again? It's an owlbear.
Let's go.
Okay, that might be my favorite character.
Be warned. There is evil here.
I'm glad he's on our side.
This one's dangerous.
Hugh Grant and a mimic bug. Yay! Mimic. And a gelatinous cube. Yes, I'm getting geeky excited.
What is it exactly that you bring to this?
I'm a planner. I make plans.
You've already made the plan, so
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
you make plans that fail.
No,
He also plays the lute.
not relevant.
The Bard. Oh, I love it. Okay. My first D&D character was a Bard. So I am naturally going to love the fact that Chris Pine is playing a Bard. And that right there, you got me. But it looks like we got some kind of spellcaster. A fighter? It's really hard to tell whether it's a fighter. He's got the armor and stuff, so he's got to be an armor class. But whether he's a fighter or a paladin, but I don't think you got a paladin in a group of thieves. A druid, a barbarian, and a bard. That's a pretty good team. You don't really have a healer. That's kind of look like a spell sword. Okay, so much for fan service. Oh, so much fan service. Yeah, there is a lot of fan service in there. An owlbear, a mimic, a gelatinous cube. I mean, those are some of the classics. So, and good musical choice. You know, whenever you put some Zeppelin in your trailer, you're going to get some attention. But yeah, I gotta say that's pretty good. It's better than the other Dungeons and Dragons movies and trailers and stuff I've seen. Yes. See, now JD agrees. It looks 100% better than the one with Jeremy Irons. And it's got Hugh Grant. Oh, hey, Jeff. How you doing? Oh, Jeff is in San Diego. We have to watch the rewind, but wanted to drop by real quick and hit the thumbs up. Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that greatly. So yeah, that looked pretty cool to me. I'm actually going to be watching that. What's funny is that this is the first D&D movie to come out since I started playing. I never really played I started playing when I got an email from Matt Hawkins from Top Cow saying, "Hey, Dan, do you want to play D&D?" And I'm like, hell yeah. So, I tried to play role-playing games when I was in my 20s. Didn't really get that far. But, so yeah, I started back in my late 40s. And I can't help but drop his name because it's odd to me that that's who I started playing with. And I didn't drop the rest of the name of the rest of the group. That's just who my DM was and who now I'm sort of the DM for. We haven't played since April, but yeah, so, and no, I'm not dropping the rest of the names. Just going to spoil that. Just, name dropping. But I love the fact that he's a bard, because bards don't get enough love, and they are a lot of fun. If you've never played D&D before and you're just starting out, I do not recommend playing a bard or any spellcaster. Your first tune should be something simple. The thief, fighter, barbarian. Straightforward. Something that all you have to do is worry about hitting. Not which spell I'm going to cast, whether or not I prepared the right spells. Do I have a spell slot left? How does my spell work? Is it a reaction? Is it a main action? Yeah, you don't need all that. You just, do I have the ingredients to do it? Are my hands free? Can I speak? There is so much more to spell casting than just fighting, A barbarian goes, "I'm going to rage," and then you hit things. Barbarian, and also a barbarian is very easy to role play, because normally the people playing barbarians, the intel is the dump stat, so then they play it that way. It's like, what do you want me to hit? Okay, I kill now. You never come across an intelligent bard. Though it would be funny to have somebody dual class a bard wizard. You know, that would be funny. Or not a bard wizard, a barbarian wizard. Or barbarian bard. That would be interesting. You know, he's got a giant axe hanging off one side and a guitar off the other. Okay, might have to do that now. That could be fun. All right, so what did you guys think of the quick trailer for Dungeons and Dragons? I think Chris Pine's an underrated actor. I really liked him as the new Captain Kirk. I think he was good in the Wonder Woman movies. I see why they forcefully brought him back in Wonder Woman 1984, even though I think it was a mistake. But his charisma and stuff is so good. I thought he did an okay job as trying to be Jack Ryan. It was an entertaining movie. I don't know if it was a good Jack Ryan movie. But, yeah, I like Chris Pine. And having him lead with the rest of that cast, yeah. Hugh Grant, though, that's the one that surprises me. Didn't think I'd see him in the movie. And I wonder if he's the big bad, or if that girl is supposed to be the big bad, or what's going to happen. So, interesting. JD says, I played a 3-int fighter once. He's not smirt. Yeah, exactly. We're currently playing a game that has one of the NPCs is an ogre with a headband of wisdom, I think it is. And he's really intelligent now with the headband on. And he hangs out at a library reading books all day. He doesn't fight. He doesn't get angry. He just reads. And it's a very fun character. He's part of it's the book with the library. I've just been horrible now with remembering stuff, but it's one of the more recent adventure guides. So definitely worth checking out. Maybe I'll look that up during the one of these breaks and see. But all right, let's go ahead and get into. Actually, if you guys want a treat, it's just kind of a fun thing. But JD has finally made a commercial for the show, and normally it's not going to run during the show because you don't put a commercial in for the show you're watching. But I thought it would be fun to watch real quick. You guys want to see it? JD, you want to cue up the commercial for the Dan Wickline Show?
You just finished the last episode of your favorite news show, and you just have to talk about it. But all your friends are ghosting you because of that incident last week at the buffet. Oh, you know the one. What you did to that chowder. Ugh. Keeps me up at night. So what do? Join writer Dan Wickline as he breaks down all your favorite pop culture media. Whether it's a review of the latest nerdy TV show or a dive back into the history of your favorite comic characters, Dan's ready to discuss all the hottest topics live. Join the conversation as Dan live streams Tuesday through Thursday at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. The Dan Wickline Show, on The Experience, comic culture and sales.
I don't know which part makes me laugh more. The idea of what you did to the chowder or the little thing that says stock footage people are creepy. I like both of those. So, all right. We are going to talk today about Marvel Phase 4. And the reason we're going to talk about it today is it doesn't seem to be ending. You know, I mean, we think about, there's going to be the big announcements on Saturday. We'll probably get the rest of the schedule. We got more shows coming up. We got more movies coming up. But we've been in phase 4 since the beginning of January of last year, of 2021. And that's after a delay because of pandemic. So phase 4 has been a very long time. Since basically we've been in phase 4 since the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. So we've seen a ton of stuff. And we've had a lot of schedule shifts. It's not been the most organized or locked down phase yet. But because they're doing the TV shows, there is already more hours of footage, hours watched, basically, in Marvel Phase 4 than the other 3 phases combined. So if you sat down and watched from Iron Man through Far From Home, it would take you less time than watching from WandaVision Episode 1 to Miss Marvel or Thor Love and Thunder. Miss Marvel season finale, Thor Love and Thunder. There's more time just there. And that's all the first half of phase 1 or phase 4. Like I said, there is a ton of stuff still coming. But we're going to take a look, talk about what we've gotten so far and what we've got left. Meant to pull this up. Okay. So the start of phase, now they break it down into 2 parts. They break down the films and they break down the TV shows. And I don't think you can look at them that way. I think you got to look at the timeline. What comes first, what happens. Now, I'm going to go a little out of order because of the timeline, like I said. So even though WandaVision was the first thing first thing after Far From Home, because Black Widow actually mostly takes place in the past, it's really more in phase 3, or at least the majority of Black Widow is phase 3. It takes place sometime after Civil War, like 2016. And Endgame and WandaVision all take place basically in 2023. So what do we get out of Black Widow? Now, a lot of Black Widow was filling in stories. It is not the most important aspect of the Phase 4. I think in a lot of ways they were doing the story they should have done before. They should have done a Black Widow story way in the past. But we do get, and we get stuff like what happened in Budapest. And yes, I say it the way Wanda says, or Natasha says it, and not the way that Clint says it. We get the introduction of her sister and her parents, the parents she was given, not necessarily her real parents. We meet the Iron Maiden and the Red Guardian. And I got to tell you, I thought David Harbour's Red Guardian was brilliant. And I would love to see him show up in more stuff. I would love to see a October Guard or Soviet Super Soldier series on Disney Plus with David Harbour and Ursa Major and Vanguard and Dark Star, and just show the Russian super team, I think. But the problem is right now, in the state of the world, I don't think they're going to highlight a Russian group right now. Yeah, that's a good question. What Captain America did he fight in the 80s? Yeah. I have a feeling that we'll find out that the U.S. government kept trying to make Captain Americas. And it was probably one that didn't work so well. You know. Also, Cap went back in the past and then kind of lived life again. So there's a chance he fought the Captain America. He just fought a much older Captain America. You know, maybe he wasn't in costume, but Guardian knows who Captain America is, you know? Yeah, well, would he be 70-something at that point? Because in 2023, he looks like he's 100. 60-something, Steve. So, maybe. See, I want them to go back and do an Invaders story with the Steve that went back in the past, and you know, and then kind of follow him along. And this is not for nothing. There's a somebody noticed that Marvel has trademarked the name and website, you know, all the stuff they do before they do a project for Nomad. Now, Nomad could be a project for Chris Evans to do since he's not Captain America anymore. It could also be a new name for Bucky, even though Steve was Nomad. And then, but there was the second Bucky, Jack Monroe, who was the second Captain America, or the Captain America for the Captain America, the commie puncher guy that came out in the 50s. He was the Bucky for him, and eventually he became Nomad and was running the country as, you know, so Jack Monroe. So they could conceivably change Winter Soldier's name to Nomad, which would make sense because he is kind of a guy without a country now. So maybe that's what they're doing with it. I don't know. But it's interesting that they did that. But so the important thing that comes out of Black Widow is A, the idea that there are Russian superheroes, and B, the new Black Widow, Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, and of course her being recruited by Val. You know, and yes, we did meet Val in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we were supposed to meet her first in Black Widow, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Give me a second here. All right, you know what? So that's Black Widow. We'll look at everything else going forward, but let's take a quick break and we'll come right back. So stay tuned.
Get the inside scoop on everything happening at the Experience every week. Join our mailing list by scanning the QR code at the bottom of the screen and then watching your email inbox.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We are talking Marvel Phase 4, what we've gotten so far, and where we're going, because, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We just talked about Black Widow and how it wasn't even really a Phase 4 movie, other than the end credit scene and telling us that they're Russian superheroes. The rest of it was all stories they should have done before. So now let's get into what the real Phase 4, or is it? Because the first few things we get out of Phase 4 are really more cleanup. Let's kind of make up for what we forgot to do. There was WandaVision, which said, okay, so Wanda came back after 5 years of being blipped and discovered that her boyfriend, Vision, was not only dead, but his body was torn apart. And the children the children come later. But basically, she wanted to be back with Vision. And we're dealing with the grief. And the whole thing of WandaVision is her dealing with the grief that she's dealt with her entire life. Her family being killed, her brother being killed, losing the Vision, the torture that she went under from Hydra. It really was a therapy thing. And that's kind of what they did for the first few TV shows, was really therapy. It almost feels like, yes, we're in 2023, but we're really kind of dealing with the fallout of all the stuff that happened in Endgame and stuff. So it's hard to say that they were moving forward at that point. I mean, we do end up with White Vision, and we don't know what that's going to be like. We do end up creating Monica Rambeau. We do get two characters of Tommy and Billy, who are Wiccan and Speed, who become Young Avengers later on. But now we're not even sure if they're real. And they don't exist in the 616, even though they're in another universe. And then there's Wanda becomes the Scarlet Witch, but really takes a bad turn. So, that's what comes out of it. And it's an interesting show. I don't want to shortchange it, but it really is dealing with Wanda's grief. And then we move on to the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is kind of a hard show to judge in the first place because it went through so many changes. Doctor Strange 2 was supposed to come out closer to WandaVision. It was supposed to come out before Spider-Man No Way Home. And that's why we got flips. Like, the biggest change for that is why Ned can use a sling ring, is because Doctor Strange is supposed to be first, and then America Chavez was going to be in Spider-Man, and she was going to create the portals that they use in the movie. As soon as they lost that, they went, Ned gets a ring. Which is not really, it's two rings. It's kind of okay. But so Falcon Winter Soldier is basically Bucky and Sam dealing with the loss of their friend. Now, they never come out and say, Steve Rogers dead. But we don't know where he is. He's on the moon. There's tributes to him. We don't know the fate of Steve Rogers. But when we see him last, he is like Werther Candy old. He's old and doesn't look like he's going to be around much longer. And he gives the shield to Sam, and we're dealing with the fallout of that because Sam doesn't feel like he can represent America. The idea of a black man representing America Steve has always been this very pure guy that's like, you're the best man for the job, you take the shield. And that's not how other people work. Everybody has biases and stuff. And Steve always just looks at somebody's heart and their courage and their character. And, that's great for Captain America, but that puts a lot of pressure on Sam. And Bucky is okay with Sam getting the shield, but when Sam doesn't pick up the mantle, it bugs him. And you end up with a lot of this therapy going on. There's even a therapist in the show, which shows it really interesting. Bucky's trying to deal with his past, all the things he did when he was controlled by the Russians. And Sam is trying to deal with the responsibility. And then the government goes, we're just going to make a new Captain America. That's it. And we're going to throw in Baron Zemo. And they make Baron Zemo so much a better character than he was in Civil War. And I'm talking about even without the dancing. So you get this new Baron Zemo who could be big in Phase 4. You get U.S. Agent, who is likely to be a big part of Phase 4 when they do the Thunderbolts or whatever they end up doing. You get Val again, who recruits him. You get Sam finally accepting he's Captain America. We find out Sharon has become the power broker. And Bucky looks like he's really ready to move on and become a hero again. But he doesn't want to be the Winter Soldier anymore. So, is he the White Wolf? Will he get a new name? Will he be Nomad? So there's a lot of options there for them. But again, this is really dealing with the fallout of Endgame more so than moving things forward. It's just like, let's put all the pieces in place. And that's kind of what they did with Phase 1 of the Marvel thing, is they had to create the pieces, Oh, here's Iron Man. Here's the Hulk. Here's Captain America. Here's Thor. Okay, let's make an Avengers movie. Okay, we did that. Here comes the Ant-Man. Here comes, Doctor Strange, and they start building on from there. So they're kind of doing that. It's still that building phase. Now, Loki is the next series that comes out, but it's hard to say where that fits in the timeline because he's jumping all over the place, and he's actually the Loki from Endgame, but from right after the end of the first Avengers movie. Because our Loki dies in Endgame, so they pull this other one. He's a variant. So you're kind of bouncing all over the place, and you're not really sure which time frame we're in. And, of course, he goes up against Kang. Now, Kang, the introduction of He Who Remains, Kang, that might be the biggest piece of the Phase 4 puzzle that we get, because it looks like Kang's going to be a major part of Phase 4. But is he the major part of Phase 4? The more we go along, it feels like they're pulling together a lot of components. But let's see. JD says, oh, hey, Kenneth. JD says, I think a moment that was missed in Falcon Winter Soldier was when Battlestar went over his resume. He was 3 times as qualified as the new Captain America, but he's made the sidekick. Yeah. There you go. Yep, that's an excellent point. So, okay, so, well, Loki is cool because we get a lot of fun with Tom Hiddleston. They kind of reestablish that redemption arc that he had gone through before death, so that the new Loki we have has also been somewhat redeemed. We meet the TVA, we find out who Kang is, we find out the whole timeline thing, but it really gets crazy. And of course we get, Jonathan Majors as He Who Remains and Kang. So that was probably the most important thing to come out of it. But again, it's hard to say where that falls in story-wise, And then from there, we get What If. And What If really just kind of establishes the multiverse and the idea of the multiverse, but it doesn't really, Even though a couple of the characters from the multiverse seem to make the jump over, Captain Carter, Stranger Supreme, whatever we want to call him, those seem to be jumped over, but it also still seems separate. So I don't know if I consider Phase 4 or What If as part of Phase 4, or more just, hey, we're going to show you these things out here to establish the idea of what could happen in the main MCU. So our next real thing forward, and our actual first character introduction and world introduction, is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is also probably one of the best movies in Phase 4. I mean, it is great cast, great acting, good story. It's one of the better Marvel movies, in my opinion. But we're introduced to Shang-Chi. We're introduced to the Ten Rings, which seem like they're going to have a bigger thing going forward. We get the end credit scene with Wong and Banner and Captain Marvel to show that he's now kind of connected to the Avengers. I mean, I don't think there's an application process. I think they look and go, yeah, you'd work. Then again, Ant-Man's kind of a Avenger too, so. But the interesting thing is that we also established things like the Abomination's still alive and still doing well, and for some reason he's cage fighting with Wong. Why is the Sorcerer Supreme cage fighting with the Abomination? But we also build on the whole idea of the Legend of Ten Rings, which is great. So this is Shang-Chi feels like it's the Iron Man of the Thanos saga or the Infinity Saga. It feels like it's that first building block for really moving forward. And maybe they're thinking it that way. Maybe they think the television shows are kind of connecting the dots and filling things in, where the movies are the main pieces. So that if you don't want to get Disney Plus and you don't want to watch these shows, you can still move forward with the movies, but the TV shows add more depth. Maybe that's their plan. So we got Shang-Chi in April of last year, and that was really neat. And then we get the Eternals. And the Eternals is fascinating because it really feels like it's outside of what's going on. You know, we get a lot of things introduced here. The idea of the Eternals, the idea of the Celestials, the fact that there's a giant Celestial half sticking up out of the earth. Shang-Chi was only April of last year. No, it was October of last year. August, September, October. It was the end of summer. July was Black Widow. So Shang-Chi was September or October, probably September. And then Eternals was November. But so Eternals kind of went, to me, the Eternals are kind of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, there's this whole other thing going on over here, and it'll eventually tie in, but it doesn't feel like it yet. You know, and oh, by the way, Harry Styles is in the MCU now with Patton Oswalt. But keep in mind, we've got Jon Snow with the Ebony Blade, and Mahershala Ali is standing offside, sounding very Wesley Snipes-like. So we're all good there, right? So we've got Blade, we got the Black Knight, we got giant Celestials sticking up out of the earth. And the fact that nothing since the Eternals has referenced that also seems odd to me. It seems like somebody would go, hey, are we going to do anything about the giant robot thing? The giant alien robot thing? Or the other hand, hey, have you seen that new resort? It's off the coast. Your rooms are inside of a giant celestial alien head. Nowhere 2, the Earth edition. Also, it seems like we could start strip mining it because that's what they did with Nowhere. So you think the Earth, which is always short on resources, could strip mine the Celestial. I know that's kind of mean, but anyway, so we get the Eternals, and then we get Hawkeye. And Hawkeye, to me, is another one of those, hey, let's check in with the one living, the original Avenger left, you know? JD says, speaking of, I super love that they made New Asgard a tourist attraction. Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. It really does. But that's in Thor: Love and Thunder if you haven't seen it yet. Hawkeye, to me, was a lot of fun. I enjoyed Hawkeye. And we get introduced to, and through all of these shows, they're introducing, like, up-and-coming characters. So we got Billy and Tommy. We got Patriot in, or Eli, Patriot in Falcon Winter Soldier, along with a possible new Falcon. In Loki, we got Kid Loki. And in Hawkeye, of course, we get Kate, who becomes Hawkeye, which just confuses me. I don't know why they do that. Just give her a different name. Anyway, because he's not retiring. He didn't seem to retire. But Hawkeye also set up, well, that's going to set up Echo. Okay. And we get back the Kingpin. And as soon as you bring back the Kingpin, you're like, whatever you're doing is fine. You brought back the Kingpin, which means that you're going to bring back Daredevil, right? Right? We're going to get Daredevil, right? Right? And then sure enough, Spider-Man No Way Home. And as I said earlier, Doctor Strange was supposed to be before Spider-Man No Way Home, but they got flipped. So Spider-Man No Way Home after, or be first, and Ned becomes a magician, a sling ring. But here we get, again, a lot of cleanup. Cleanup from the idea that, his name got revealed. Again, more playing with the multiverse. And a lot of fan service. But again, it doesn't seem like there's a lot driving forward Phase 4. I don't know if anybody really new came out of this or anything that moves the storyline forward. It just kind of played with that stuff. So, yeah, I think consequentially wise, Spider-Man No Way Home didn't really do much. It's a fun movie, and it's a Sony joint thing, so maybe they didn't want to do much in it. But, all right, this is a good place. This is the end of 2021, so we're going to take our second break here. We'll come back, talk about what we've gotten so far in 2022 and what's left. So we'll be right back.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Who would win, Batman or Superman? It's the age-old debate, except it's so much more complicated than that. Nerd Killer Warfare every week on The Experience is your chance to debate other nerds in the questions we've all been asking for years, except we take those debates and turn them up to 11. Go to bit.ly/EXP casting or scan the QR code to be part of the show.
Should probably mention that we got Daredevil back, or at least Matt Murdock back in Spider-Man. That's the important part. Welcome back, everybody. The Dan Wickline Show. We're talking about Marvel Phase 4, trying to figure out where we're at and where we're going. Remember to stick around after the show. We have What's in the Box with Miss Jen, though I don't know if that's actually going to play since Miss Jen is in San Diego Con. JD, is there a What's in the Box after this?
Indeed, there is. The crew at Space Cadets will be hosting today.
Excellent. So there is a What's in the Box, just without Miss Jen. Get to see what the crew come up with. So, all right, let's get back to it. Now, the next thing that happens is kind of vague. Release-wise was Moon Knight, but Doctor Strange we know takes place after Spider-Man because there's a reference to Spider-Man in Doctor Strange. But Doctor Strange was supposed to be out in February, and then it got moved to May. So we'll assume Doctor Strange was next. Now, Doctor Strange is interesting because, again, it plays in the multiverse. We get introduced to a bunch of characters like, well, America Chavez is probably the most important one. But you get Black Bolt, you get Mr. Fantastic, you get Professor Xavier, Captain Carter, and Captain Marvel with Monica Rambeau as well, I don't know if they ever actually call her Captain Marvel. I don't remember. I've only seen the movie once so far. But so you get the Illuminati. You also get introduced to Clea, who is probably the biggest thing Doctor Strange-wise moving forward. And, of course, that was Charlize Theron, who I thought was great casting. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that. But I think, again, we didn't get a lot of move forward with Phase 4. I think we got a lot of Doctor Strange move forward and a lot of Scarlet Witch dealt with. This almost feels like this was dealing with the fallout of Endgame still. Because WandaVision was the fallout. She became evil. This was Doctor Strange dealing with that. So again, this almost feels like, hey, we're over here. We'll deal with this. Doc will show up when you need him. Then we get introduced to Moon Knight, who, and this series is about as detached from the Marvel Universe as you could possibly make it. There's next to no Easter eggs tying it in, and there was supposed to be, but they purposely did that away. And, I'm okay with that. It's good that they did stuff like that because they allowed the character to really connect on its own. It's like a phase 1 thing again, where, there's ties, but we don't need to get to that yet. So, all for that. Then we get Miss Marvel, which is nothing but Easter eggs. I mean, the entire opening of the series is a recap of Endgame, which I thought was pretty awesome done. And the show, it ties into Captain Marvel. It's going to continue on in the Marvels. So this is definitely moving us forward, but is it moving us forward to whatever the Phase 4 thing is going to be? Or, the Kang story or any of that? Or is this something Captain Marvel-ish? The Marvels-ish? And that's the point I'm getting at is, All of these things seem to be detached from an overall story. They don't necessarily connect. And then we get Thor Love and Thunder, which is a fun story. We get all the gods brought in. Maybe that ties into Moon Knight. You know, we're dealing with the Land of the Dead again. That seems to be popping up a lot with Valhalla and the Duat and Black Panther's ancestral planes. So maybe that's the connection. But again, that seems kind of on its own. You know, even the end credit scene cameo doesn't really feel like it's going to tie in unless that character becomes a fighter with everybody, which is absolutely possible. So that's phase 4 as we know it right now. The next thing we get is She-Hulk, which is a comedy, and that doesn't feel like it's going to really, I mean, I think we'll get a lot of Easter eggs in it, and we'll get a lot of characters, like there's talk about Daredevil showing up and the Abomination and stuff like that. So we're going to get a lot of that kind of stuff. But will it also drive us to whatever the big thing for phase 4 is? And I don't know if that's something we can say, you know? It just seems kind of its own little thing. So where exactly is phase 4 going? And when are we going to kind of get, you know, what's happening? And we might not. It might be like, you know, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 is where we first start realizing there's somebody going after the stones, and phase 3 is where we deal with it. But, you know, what's next? Movie-wise, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. That is supposed to have Namor. There's rumors of Doctor Doom. They're dealing with the death of Chadwick Boseman. So there's going to be a new Black Panther, a new king of Wakanda or ruler of Wakanda. There's all that they have to deal with. Will they move the main story forward? Maybe not. Then there's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That, if anything, I think will move the main story forward, because that's our next appearance of Kang. That Jonathan Majors is going to be in that. And if Kang is the big bad, then that makes a lot of sense. That'll move us forward. After that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I think James Gunn is finishing his own story arc. Will it tie in? Will it give us pieces? Maybe. But I think that's going to be more its own thing. Then we get the Marvels, which will be 2023 as well, and that might move us in the big direction, but it's hard to tell again because we don't know what that's going to be. And then movie-wise, the only other 2 movies they've mentioned for phase 4, they've talked about Blade, but nothing, you know, big on that. And of course, they announced they're going to do a Fantastic Four movie, and that should be the next thing after the Marvels, but we don't know of a director for it yet. We don't know of any of the cast. I mean, we got teased John Krasinski, but was that just a one-time thing? Will it be somebody else? And Fantastic Four feels like it's the end of phase 4, which would make a lot of sense. Fantastic Four, phase 4. And they like to end with a group movie. So where they normally end with the Avengers, they end with the Fantastic Four. All of that makes sense. And I still think that maybe they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four in Ant-Man and the Wasp and then the full movie. But I don't know. Again, we don't really have those pieces. And then you look on the other side, on the television side, we've got the untitled Halloween special that's supposed to have Werewolf by Night in it. We've got the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. We've got Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars, and there's talk of an untitled Wakanda series. But again, none of that stuff, you know, it's hard to see where they're going in the overall motion. And I'm hoping that this new stuff, what we're going to find out this weekend at the con, will be enough to give us a better idea. Or are we just going to have to accept that? JD says Secret Hope Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special will be a shot-for-shot remake of the Star Wars Holiday Special. Oh, that would be awesome. But who would play B. Arthur? Damn you, JD! You threw me off my track again. Okay, so yeah, I'm hoping that the announcements on Saturday will give us a better idea of what they're doing. But it could be that all of Phase 4, even though it's huge, is the equivalent of Phase 1, which is literally just putting the pieces together. You know, I was kind of hoping that Phase 4 would be self-contained. You know, that Kang would be Phase 4, and then we'd be done with it, and we wouldn't do one of those big 3-phase villains again. But it's right now, it's just all over the place, and there isn't anything that says, well, you know, Ant-Man is the first one that looks like it might tie into some bigger story. But again, it's Ant-Man. And can Ant-Man and the Wasp take out Kang? That seems kind of different power levels. So I'm really looking forward to the Hall H announcements. And then, of course, we'll get more in September at D23. And hopefully that'll kind of paint what's going to happen with the rest of that. Glenn Close would be a great B. Arthur substitute, but she's already in the MCU as Nova Prime. And you don't use them more than once. So unless they cast her, but I think she died when Thanos attacked. All right, guys, we are going to wrap it up there. I hope you enjoyed our retrospect of Phase 4. Hopefully next week, after the announcement, we'll be able to talk and have a better idea. Stick around for What's in the Box. Also, Kyle will be doing his Stuck at Home Comic-Con update at 9:15 Eastern tonight, which will be 6:15 on the West Coast. And that silly game show they do, I hate the name, so I don't say the name. But the game show will be on tonight too. So stick around for all that. It should be fun. And I will see you guys next week. Remember to keep an ear out for all the Comic-Con announcement. There should be some great stuff. And we'll talk about everything on Tuesday. Good night, everybody.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.